You say you want proof that your manifestation is coming to pass, but most of the time, you do not really want proof. You want the feeling that comes after proof. You want to finally relax. You want to stop holding your breath. You want something outside of you to say, "You're okay now. This is working. You can trust it." That is why checking feels so hard to stop, because you are not just looking for another sign, you are looking for relief. And if proof is the only thing that lets you relax, then your state will always feel fragile. That is the part many people miss. They think checking is the problem, but checking is usually the surface. Underneath your checking is the feeling of, "I need something to confirm that I am safe to believe this. I need something to confirm that I am not wasting my time. I need something to confirm that my manifestation is actually moving." And that makes sense, because when you really care about something, waiting can feel vulnerable. Trusting can feel vulnerable. Letting the manifestation unfold without constantly monitoring it can feel vulnerable. So the mind tries to protect you. It says, check again, look again, make sure, find proof, see if anything changed. And for a moment, checking can feel like control. It can feel like you are doing something. It can feel like you are staying on top of the process. But the question is, does checking actually make you stable? Or does it just give you a few seconds of relief before you need proof again? That is the difference. Because if the proof works, but only for a moment, then the proof was never the real solution. It was just a temporary emotional hit. Let's make this real. Maybe you have been affirming, visualizing, praying, scripting, or returning to your state. You are doing the inner work. You are trying to trust the process. But then a quiet day happens. Nothing dramatic appears. No big confirmation shows up. No obvious outer movement happens. And suddenly your mind starts checking. Not necessarily checking a person. Not necessarily checking a message. Just checking everything. Checking whether you feel different enough. Checking whether your mood is high enough. Checking whether your thoughts have been clean enough. Checking whether you believed hard enough. Checking whether the manifestation should have shown up by now. You start measuring yourself. You start scanning your inner world like a report card. And now manifestation starts feeling like pressure. Instead of living from the state, you are inspecting the state. Instead of returning to identity, you are grading every feeling. And that can become exhausting. Because the moment one feeling does not look perfect, the mind says, maybe I am not in the state. Maybe I messed it up. Maybe nothing is happening. But that is not always true. Sometimes you are simply having a human moment. Sometimes your mind is quiet because the state is becoming normal. Sometimes the day feels ordinary because life is not supposed to feel dramatic every second. Sometimes nothing looks loud on the outside, but something is still becoming more stable inside you. This is why proof can be tricky. Proof feels helpful because it gives the mind something to hold on to. But if you need proof every time the day gets quiet, then the state never gets a chance to become natural. You keep making the outside world responsible for calming you down, and that is not the same as stability. Here is another example. Imagine someone is building something, a channel, a business, a new life, a healthier routine, a new identity. They take an aligned step. They post the video. They submit the application. They make the offer. They start the routine. They finally do the thing the old version of them kept avoiding. And for a moment, they feel proud. They feel clear. They feel like they are moving from the new state. But then almost immediately, the checking begins. They keep looking at the numbers. They keep wondering if enough people noticed. They keep looking for proof that the effort mattered. They keep needing the result to say, yes, this is working. But the deeper issue is not the number. The deeper issue is that they do not feel safe continuing without constant confirmation. That is where the shift has to happen. Because if every aligned action needs immediate proof, then you will always feel unstable. You will only trust yourself when the result claps for you. You will only feel aligned when the world responds quickly. You will only feel confident when something outside of you says, you were right. But the manifesting state cannot mature that way. At some point, you have to become the person who can take the aligned step and let it breathe. You have to let the seed sit in the ground without digging it up every hour to see if it is growing. That image matters because that is what checking often does. You plant the seed, then you dig it up. You plant it again, then you dig it up. You say you trust the process. Then you keep asking the process to prove itself before it has had space to move. And that does not mean you are bad at manifestation. It means some part of you is still scared to trust something before you can see it. That is human. But it is also something you can grow out of, not by forcing yourself to never check again, not by pretending you do not care, not by acting like proof does not matter at all, but by learning the difference between practical checking and emotional checking. Practical checking is simple. It has a purpose. You check what needs to be checked, you get the information, you move on. Emotional checking feels different. Emotional checking is sticky. You check, and then you need to check again. You get one answer, but then the mind creates another question. You see one sign, but then you need a stronger sign. You get one bit of progress, but then you start wondering if it will last. You feel relief for a moment, but the relief does not stay. That is how you know the checking is not really about information. It is about trying to feel safe enough to stop worrying. And this is where the manifesting state becomes practical. Because the question is not only, how do I stop checking? The better question is, what feeling am I trying to get from proof? Am I trying to feel chosen? Am I trying to feel secure? Am I trying to feel certain? Am I trying to feel good enough? Am I trying to feel like I am not behind? Am I trying to feel like I did not make a mistake by believing? That question brings you closer to the root. Because once you know what feeling you are trying to get from proof, you can stop making proof the only source of that feeling. For example, if you are checking because you want certainty, the correction is not to force certainty. The correction is to practice staying steady when you do not know every detail yet. If you are checking because you want reassurance, the correction is not to hunt for reassurance all day. The correction is to return to the version of you who does not need the outer world to rescue your state every hour. If you are checking because you want to know the manifestation is still yours, the correction is not to search harder. The correction is to stop treating silence like it has the power to take your identity away. That is the real work. Simple, but not always easy, because the old version of you may have learned that watching closely keeps you safe. If you monitor everything, maybe you will not be surprised. If you scan for problems, maybe you can prevent disappointment. If you keep looking for proof, maybe you will not feel foolish for believing. But at some point, the thing that tried to protect you starts keeping you stuck. Because constant checking teaches the body. We are not safe yet. We cannot relax yet. We still need more evidence. We still need the outside world to say it is okay. And if that becomes your pattern, then even good signs will not satisfy you for long. You will always need another one. That is why the manifesting state has to become deeper than proof. Proof can encourage you. Proof can make you smile. Proof can remind you that things are moving. But proof cannot be the only reason you stay in the state. The state has to become something you return to even before the proof is obvious. That is where stability begins. So here is the reset. The next time you feel the urge to check, pause before you act on it. Do not shame yourself. Do not call yourself weak. Just pause and ask, what am I hoping this proof will let me feel? Then answer honestly. Maybe the answer is, I want to feel safe. I want to feel chosen. I want to feel like it is working. I want to feel like I can finally relax. Good. Now you know what the check was really about. Then ask, Can I give myself one small piece of that feeling before I check? Not forever, not perfectly, just for this moment. Can I breathe before I check? Can I finish the task in front of me before I check? Can I let this quiet hour exist without turning it into a warning sign? Can I remind myself that my manifestation does not need to be proven every few minutes to still be unfolding? Can I return to the state without forcing the outside world to calm me down first? That is how you begin to build stability. Small moments, small pauses, small returns. You feel the urge, but you do not immediately obey it. You want proof, but you do not make proof your oxygen. You care about the desire, but you stop treating the desire like a fragile thing that disappears the moment you stop watching it. That is a real shift. And it may feel uncomfortable at first, because when you stop checking, the old mind may say, you are being careless. You are letting go too much. You are not doing enough. You should make sure. But the new state says, I can care without gripping. I can believe without monitoring. I can allow without forcing proof. I can let the manifestation come to pass without digging it up every hour. That is a different kind of faith. Not blind faith, embodied faith, the kind where you still live your life. You still take grounded action. You still use wisdom. You still notice what is happening. But you are no longer using every detail as a vote on whether your manifestation is real. That is where freedom begins. Because when you stop needing proof every few minutes, you stop living like your state is constantly on trial. You stop putting the manifestation in a courtroom. You stop asking every feeling, every delay, every quiet moment, every ordinary day, are you proof or not? Sometimes the day is just quiet. Sometimes progress is not loud. Sometimes the inner shift is happening before the outer result has fully caught up. Sometimes your job is not to check harder. Sometimes your job is to stop abandoning the state just because there is nothing new to analyze. That is the part that builds strength, not the big dramatic moment. The ordinary moment where you choose not to panic. The ordinary moment where you do not go searching for proof just to soothe yourself. The ordinary moment where you let the manifestation breathe. The ordinary moment where you say, I do not need to hold my life together through constant checking. That is powerful because now the state is becoming less fragile. Now proof is allowed to come without being chased. Now signs are allowed to encourage you without becoming your foundation. Now results are allowed to arrive without being interrogated. Now your desire is allowed to unfold without being watched like something that might run away. So if you have been checking lately, do not attack yourself for it. Just understand what is happening. You want proof that your manifestation is coming to pass. But underneath that, you want relief. You want certainty. You want permission to relax. And the deeper shift is learning that you do not have to wait for proof before you return to yourself. You can return now. You can breathe now. You can stop holding your state hostage until the outside world gives you another reason to believe. You can let the manifestation come to pass without constantly asking it to prove itself. Because the version of you who has it does not need to check every few minutes to know it is still theirs. That version can live. That version can move. That version can rest. That version can continue. That version can let life unfold without turning every quiet moment into a problem. So the next time the urge to check appears, ask yourself, do I need information right now, or am I trying to feel safe? If you need information, get the information and move on. But if you are trying to feel safe, return to the state first. Return to your breath. Return to the identity. Return to the version of you who does not need proof every few minutes to stay connected to what is already becoming real. You are not just looking for proof. You are looking for relief. And the more you learn to find relief inside the state, the less you need to chase proof outside of you. Subscribe and enter your manifesting state.